Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Madness Cafe. Today, before we get started, yay, Madness Cafe, whoop, whoop. So before we get started, we want to read a couple of shout outs that we've gotten from listeners, which makes us quite happy. So this is pretty awesome. This is so what we want. We always want to hear from you guys. So, and these are in no particular order. I'm just reading them. But the first one is from Jack_Meyer_realtor. And he posted a picture of our logo on his Instagram page and said, nice perspective and good food for thought. And then underneath he wrote, it's a good listen and nice to know that people can change their mind when given more information. Great interview dynamic too. He posted about the I used to be pro-life episode.
Yeah.
So that was really cool. That was really awesome. And then we got a response from My Journey to Zen 0828 on Instagram. And this was in response to our please rate and review post. And she said, well, first I posted in that post, or we did, have you listened to this week's episode? What came up for you? Are you wearing a mask? What are you hiding and why? And she wrote, it is so important to ask yourself these questions. You need to really sit with yourself, journal, and figure out what you are hiding and why you feel it is not appropriate to show the world. In truth, others only want your authenticity. Absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. The people who are good for you and need to be in your circle want your authenticity.
Yeah, the others don't so much always.
Yeah, exactly. The others, not so much.
Yeah, not so much, but yeah. Hey, we're not trying to impress them anyway, right?
Exactly, or we shouldn't be. So I just thought that was really cool. Have we gotten any others? I think there was one other.
There was one from someone that I used to work with, Felicia, and I didn't copy it, but she was listening to our episode, same comment about our masking episode. What did we call that one? Drop your mask?
We called it Shed Your Mask.
Shed Your Mask. Shed Your Mask. She said, this was exactly what I needed today, or something. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly what I needed. And I get it, because we talked a lot about work-life balance, on that episode, trying to come home and be everything to everyone. You had said how you get home from work and you're exhausted, and I had said how I get home from work and I feel the same way. And yet we think we should achieve. And I know from working with her that she feels the same way. Yep. She's like, how do I get home and do more? Exactly. And I think by having the conversation, maybe we're letting all the people listening off the hook a little bit on that one, that it's okay maybe to just rest once in a while. It's okay.
Yeah. And kind of in the whole idea of, we think everybody else, has the perfect life and they've got all the balls in the air and they aren't letting anything slip through the cracks and all that kind of stuff. It just goes to show, look, we're all struggling out here. We all are trying to do all the things all the time for all the people, and we need to just cut ourselves some slack. Take a break. We don't have to be all things to all people. We don't have to do all the things all the time.
That's big, because we work a lot and we're under a lot of pressure, and we're on Instagram and we're seeing everybody look so great. And then we do that comparison thing where we're like, oh, maybe I'm not so great, but guess what? We're all human.
Yep, exactly.
We're all great. All great.
We're awesome.
What are we going to talk about today?
Okay, so today we are going to talk about banning books, because if you've been paying attention, you know that book banning is having a resurgence. It is on the rise. In fact, According to data collected by PEN America, 1,145 books have been banned by school districts across the US between July 1st, 2021 and March 31st, 2022.
Holy F.
And that is a huge upsurge from definitely the year prior and probably the few years prior. It looks like this resurgence of book banning, oh God, it's so sad. It's particularly focused on race, identity, sexual orientation, LGBTQIA folks, and gender. It just chaps my ass. And which there's a lot of things chapping my ass these days. such a
Raquel's ass is very chapped.
And my ass needs a whole lot of ointment.
Oh, gross, Raquel. That's okay. I think we should put things out in the open, but that is a little bit too TMI for me. A little bit too much. I don't want to hear about your ointments.
Okay, it's figurative, people. I do not literally need ointment.
That's funny because sometimes that's what banning books is about. People
talking about ointment and talking about chapped asses.
No, I meant like kind of taking things out of context or thinking they mean something that they don't actually mean. We're having this huge upsurge, people going to libraries, but most specifically what I want to talk about, and you can change that if you want, but the school boards and school libraries really focusing on our kids. Why do you think that is? Why now is the big question.
It's a whole push to erase people and erase their experiences, because if you remove those books that tell those stories and people can no longer access them, then you can't access those stories. It's as if those people don't exist, because if you don't know about them, they didn't exist, right? And there's this huge erasure that happens. I think that's part of it. I think it's this whole thing of wanting to make sure that mainstream, conservative, white, very narrowly focused agenda is the default. And generally that's been true throughout this country's history, but things have been starting to shift. And especially with the younger generation, they're much more open, they're much more diverse. It's this huge browning of America, basically. And the white men in charge are freaking out. And not just white men. I mean, there's, white women.
There's some white women in there too.
Yeah, there's some white women in there too. I mean, there's this group called Moms of Liberty. And trust me, they are doing everything they can to ban all the books.
Okay, so. Raquel, you use the phrase browning of America. What does that mean?
Well, that means that there's a rising population of brown people. There's more Black people, there's more Hispanic people, there's more people of Latin descent, there's more people of various Asian cultures, various Asian descents. There's people from all over who are coming to America and making
there's indigenous
a life here.
People.
There's indigenous people, and so not only are they having, I guess I should say we, because I'm part of those populations, are having more of a voice and more of a presence, and basically not sitting back and fading into the woodwork. So that's kind of scaring people. But there's a whole lot of intermingling going on, which that's always been the case, because, hello, to the victors go the spoils, and that included rape. So there's always been a lot of that, but people marrying and having relationships freely and by choice. This country isn't as lily white as it used to be. And I think that's scaring a lot of people. So in that sense, yes, there is a quote unquote browning of America.
I see. Okay. But it still doesn't answer quite the question of why now? Why are they focusing on the school boards? Because this is what got me really involved in the whole, I was going to run for school board and then I changed my mind and didn't do so. I had been reading a bunch of stuff about how the Proud Boys were targeting the school boards. They were sort of grooming their person and then having them run and infiltrating the school board. And now I'm seeing the kind of the same thing around book banning, that this is coming from a lot of the school boards, people that were placed on them. Why now? Why is this all of a sudden?
I think maybe it's a number of reasons, and I'm not going to have all the answers, but I think it's partly because politically, in some ways, yes, our country is becoming more progressive and more open, but as a backlash to that, there's a huge conservative movement that's bucking up against that.
Yes.
And, one of the things that comes up in the argument in banning books is, what about the First Amendment, right? Free speech.
Yeah.
But this is one thing that I found when I was reading a bunch of articles, is that when it comes to school boards, the First Amendment doesn't necessarily have as much strength because the states have authority over school jurisdiction. So there's less room, and this is from an article in Grid News. And there's a lawyer who specializes in First Amendment rights. His name is Robert Corn Revere. And he states that state governments have the authority to create curricula, including book choices, through their departments of education and local school boards that give them the ability to dictate what books are and aren't taught and stocked in libraries. Because states have this authority over school jurisdiction, there's less room for a First Amendment argument to counter book bans. With this level of control, school districts can censor books for any number of reasons they deem fit. And in fact, he goes on to say, 18 states have laws that ban the quote unquote consideration of divisive concepts in schools, language, he says, that is most often used when describing race and gender.
These are winning issues for the Republicans. So I see it as just like critical race theory. A lot of people didn't really delve into what critical race theory really was.
Yeah.
It was just a talking point. Same thing I'm seeing with book banning. It's a talking point. People are showing up at school board meetings, and I can only speak to the ones that I've attended, but showing up, taking pieces of books, reading them without actually reading the whole content, and getting a whole bunch of parents all in a tizzy, I guess, chapping their asses. And because they aren't really getting the full context or the full story of the story.
Exactly.
For lack of better words, but it's a political issue. It gets people riled, and ultimately it gets them votes, just like critical race theory did, when those people didn't even know. They're like, check, I'm going to vote for this guy because he's against critical race theory. But then you say, what is critical race theory? And they're like, yeah, it's something about, I don't know, teaching race in school, and it's dividing our students, and I hate it.
Yep. Or they go to the whole thing of, with basically teaching actual accurate history of the US.
Oh, we don't want that either, because
we don't want that either, because that's going to make my kid feel bad. Well, you know what? Little Black kids have been feeling bad for a long time. And if we can handle it, I mean, not that we can handle it. I mean, that's not the right way to put it. But if it's
true,
it's very true. But why is it okay? And I know the answer to this, but why is it okay for for us to feel bad as little kids, but it's not okay for little white kids to feel bad in school. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's not fair. It's like my little Susie Q and my little Johnny can't feel bad or be made to feel bad about something that happened, because that's going to make them feel guilty, like they're bad people. And
because Raquel, that's white supremacy. That is the key to white supremacy, is that if you and I both had a child, it doesn't matter if your child suffers. It only matters if my child suffers. That is Absolutely. White supremacy. Mm-hmm. And to counter that argument, we're also underestimating our own children's abilities. What I want to say about that is, am I underestimating their ability to have empathy without feeling like degrading to themselves? I can have empathy and caring and read and learn without finding a hate for myself. Do I think our kids can't do that?
Apparently not.
They're not capable of. I think the whole issue here is that it goes right back to our last episode about authenticity. The authenticity that we find within ourselves, that we learn within others, that spreads this thing that people don't like to talk about. They probably want this banned too, but it spreads love for each other, right?
Yeah. And how dare you?
Yeah, we don't want that. We don't want to have love and understanding for each other and each other's children. That would be crazy.
Yeah, that's going to stir up a lot of stuff we don't want to stir up.
I think the reason it's big right now, because okay, we had Trump and his crazy shit, and his crazy shit's still going on, as everyone knows. And let's just hope to God he can't run in the next election. Let's hope. But I think the Republicans they have the Republicans, and then they have the Trumplicans. Right?
The Trumplicans.
I stole that. I stole that from a guy on Instagram, but it fits, right? You have the Republicans and the Trumplicans. And that. Some of these overlap a little bit, but sometimes they're completely separate.
Yeah.
And in order to win this election, if it's not Trump, a Trumplican, they have to have some talking points. And critical race theory worked. It got people to the polls. It got them to vote. Book banning works. It gets people to the polls. It gets them to the vote, because God knows you don't want people putting crazy ideas in your kids' heads.
God knows.
We don't want some crazy idea, because the last thing we want our kids doing is thinking.
Yep. Nope. They're not supposed to think. They're just supposed to believe the way we believe and the way we tell them. And that's it. How dare they question anything?
That's why I think it's big right now, because I think they're sending people in, parents in, like the Proud Boys. They're infiltrating. They're going in with this agenda. Has to be, because the American Library Association in 2002 said there were 723 challenges to library, school, and university materials, and that was the highest in 20 years. They were sending people in to cause this ruckus to win the election. That's what I think.
Yeah. I think you're right. And I think it comes from a place of fear.
For the parents, but not for the politicians.
Yeah, not well.
No, they are steering the pot to win an election. They don't give a shit if it's right or wrong.
Yes, they are stirring the pot, but there is also an underlying fear of, oh my God, I as a white man am not going to be in power anymore. There is a level of fear to this.
All right. I'll accept that.
I think. Yeah.
But they're not afraid of our kids. They're not afraid of these books. They want to win the election.
I would say that it's both. I think they are afraid of the books. Yes, they want to win the elections, but I do think they are afraid of the books, because the books are out there, and these are ideas that they don't want their kids to learn about. And so,
they're not fucking asshole parents, okay? Because they're just fucking asshole parents. They're doing parenting all wrong. Ted Cruz, you're doing parenting all wrong.
That is very true. And one of the crazy things about this is that not only do they want to pull the books out of the schools, right, or take it out of the curriculum, They want
Right.
to take it out of the school libraries completely. So even if it's not in the curriculum, the kid can't just go get the book and read it on their own time. But they want to take the books out of public
Circulation.
libraries. They want to take them off of e-databases so people can't even check them out electronically. They want to completely ban them altogether. Or people say, oh, so they're not in the schools and the libraries, who cares? People can just go buy them. Well, what about people who can't afford to buy them, or they don't have a credit card to buy it online, or they don't have a computer to access an e-database,
or they don't even know it exists because they don't have access to it?
Exactly. Like I said, it's erasing the experiences of certain people in the efforts to erase those people. Because like I said, if you go around your whole life and you don't read about or hear about people different from yourself, then you just assume those people don't exist.
Well, you would just have no frame of reference for it.
Exactly. It's much easier to control someone with a narrower frame of reference.
Yes. Bingo.
Yeah. And what I keep hearing over and over again in podcasts that I've listened to about banning books, and which shout out to the Stacks podcast. And I believe the host's name is Tracy Thomas. She's amazing. Her podcast did a 5-day series on banning books, and I'll put a link to all that in the show notes. It was amazing. That podcast was amazing anyway, just in general, but that was a really great series. Hearing in that podcast and then all the articles that I read and newspaper stories and things like that about banning books is the first step toward fascism.
Yep.
And that is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand that it keeps happening over and over. We are not learning our lessons because our kids aren't learning the history.
On purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, explain. Do you feel competent? I don't think I could explain it. Do you feel competent to explain what that means, the first step of fascism?
Let me preface by saying I am not a historian. I will preface that, and I will encourage people to.
I always love to put you on the spot with these things.
And it's funny how I don't really just say no. I just do a lot of prefacing and then step right in. So people, do your own research, find out more. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Fascism and dictatorships kind of go hand in hand. It's basically the whole cult of personality thing in political institutions. You have a dictator, you have one leader who is in control of everything. That one person makes all the decisions and then shuts down all of the things that are in opposition to, and I say him because 99.999% of the time it's a man who is a dictator. Everything gets shut down that's in opposition to them. So it's shutting down of a free press, shutting down of access
Listen up,
to information.
Trumplicans. Listen up,
access
Trumplicans.
to information is shut down. Access to education is shut down. Access to a broad education is shut down. In situations like that, the literati and the thought leaders, the people who, like professors and authors, people who are basically, they trade in ideas, those people get shut out. They get sent to gulags, or they get, they get banned from their country, or they get rounded up and put in prison, or they are disappeared, right? Yep. In various countries, we see this happen. It happened in Nazi Germany. It's happening now in North Korea. It happened in China. It happens in various Arab countries. It's happened in this country. It's happening now. I mean, people talk about the Red Scare and, oh my God, who's a communist and all of that was going on. Well, it's the same thing. It's happening here. I mean, granted, hopefully nobody is being imprisoned. I mean, I can't say for sure. I don't know, but I don't think anybody's being imprisoned for their thoughts. This is the part of the slippery slope. If we deny access to information just because somebody said, oh, this is obscene, or oh, this is pornographic, or oh, this is divisive, that's the beginning. That's, if you don't want to read the book, don't read it. If you get kind of same idea with abortion and reproductive rights. If you don't want to have an abortion, don't have one. Same thing with gay marriage. If you don't want to marry a gay person, don't marry a gay person. If you don't want to, marry somebody of a different race, don't. But don't take away that choice for other people. If you don't want to do these things, fine. You have every right to stay as ignorant as you want to be. That is totally fine. Far be it from me to stop anybody from being ignorant.
But they might not be ignorant. They may be willfully choosing.
Right. They're willfully choosing to stay ignorant is basically what I'm saying.
I don't know if that's the case.
Or uninformed. Maybe that's the better word than ignorant. It's uninformed.
You mean in the choice to read books?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, because they could be reading all kinds of other stuff.
Right. Right. But you know what I thought was interesting?
What?
There's a couple books that are never, at least I haven't seen that they've been banned.
Like what?
Mein Kampf, I don't believe has been banned. I could be wrong about that. If I'm wrong, somebody please let me know, because I would love to know.
Have you read that book?
I have not read it.
Me neither.
But I don't think that's been banned. Maybe it has. I don't know. Maybe it was banned in Germany after the fall of the Third Reich. I don't know. Books that people hold up as these tomes or their manifestos, and then they go and blow up government buildings. Mein Kampf is one of those books that they cite. That book's, but nobody is reading Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye and going and blowing up a government building.
No, but they're reading The Bluest Eye, and I haven't read that one either, so I'm speculating. And they're possibly seeing themselves, or they're possibly seeing a different point of view, and they're learning compassion, so either self-compassion or compassion for the other, and they're thinking and learning.
As they should, though.
Right. But they're not blowing up anything because it's not a manifesto to blow up something.
Right, but
it's not,
but yet it's being banned.
Right.
It's being banned.
Well, in our school system, we had a parent come up about this book.
You mean the school system that your daughters are in right now?
Yeah, I've been attending the school board meetings because of issues like this. And, I've just suddenly gotten really interested in what's going on. So there was a parent, and I didn't know she was quoting from this book, and she started quoting.
And the book that you're holding up is Push by Sapphire.
Push. So she gets up, you can talk for 3 minutes at the school board. At least that's how it works in our school board. And she started reading some passages that were pretty graphic. And she said, this is pornography, and this is not what we want our children to listen to. So I didn't really say anything because I didn't know what book she was citing from, first of all. But second of all, I knew it wasn't pornography because what she was describing was rape and incest. I could tell that from the reading. And I just want to say to people, if they think that rape and incest is pornography, then they either A, don't understand the purpose of pornography, or B, they might need to see a therapist about their link there, is all I'm saying. That maybe they have an idea of things that are sexually enticing that maybe shouldn't be. I don't know. I'm just saying that.
Right.
But number two, so then I got home, I found out what books she was referring to, and I went out and I bought Push. And then I realized that it was made into a movie a few years ago called Precious.
But yeah, Precious, yes. And I did see the movie. Yeah.
I saw the movie too years ago, and I have to say the movie was heartbreaking. I cried and cried for this child. Maybe that's some of the point of being exposed, but reading the book was a completely different experience, and I'll tell you why for a couple reasons.
Okay.
Number one, because the writing is so great. It is like reading poetry, but yet a novel at the same time.
Wow.
The writing is just beautiful and on point. It is also a book about a young girl's quest to literacy. She just wants to read. She just wants an education. And it is also a picture. This isn't a true story, by the way. This is built on pieces of lives that Sapphire knew, people that she knew, herself included, and others. This isn't a true story of her life or anything like that.
Right.
But it speaks to people's lives, actual human beings, their lives. And I think what's kind of hard for, I will say, I'm only going to speak to myself. I think what's kind of hard for a white woman to digest in this book is there's this little young African-American girl named Precious who has had this horrific upbringing. She's just trying to learn. And when she voices that in the book, when she's talking to her white woman counselor or her white woman teacher, sometimes in her head, she says some things like, that stupid fucking white bitch is trying to destroy my family. Right. And I think that can be a little shocking or a little off-putting, because I think we tend to see ourselves as white saviors. Like, oh, we're just going in to like do the best for this kid without understanding what our unintended consequences to this child and her family could be. And it really makes, I'm again going to speak for myself. It really made me wake up to the idea that I don't know everything. I don't know what's in people's lives. And goddamn, if my heart didn't break for this little child, but it should break for any child that is going through something similar. And if a child has gone through something similar and is reading this book and can see that maybe they can get some help, maybe they can learn to read. Okay, they're not reading the book because they haven't learned to read, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is representation.
Yeah.
And the language is hard and it's difficult, but it is beautifully written and captured. And I would much rather have my kid at the correct age. And I get to help decide that. And so does the librarian who helps to curate the books in the library. I would much rather have my kid read this book than some of that fictional junk about vampires and 50 Shades of Grey. Don't even get me started on that bullshit. But we exonerate a book like that. And then, which is not even that the story is bad, but the writing is shit. This book, the writing.
Although I will say, to be fair, and I'm not defending 50 Shades Grey because the book was, like you said, the book is poorly written.
The writing is shit.
It is not ideal, right? But 50 Shades of Grey has appeared on some banned book lists as well.
Okay,
and
good.
So
that's
a
good.
lot of
That's
books
good.
About like vampires and that kind of thing.
No, wait, I take that back. It's not good. It went on banned book lists. I don't believe in banned book lists, but I'm just saying it's not a good book.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's poorly written.
Right. But we all have the right to read it. I've read it. My kids have read it. Well, one of my kids has read it. I read it because my kid wanted to read it. And I said, let's read them together.
Oh, okay. That is a perfect point. I am so glad that you said that because, oh my God, I wish so many parents would do that, where instead of, seeing a book that's on the curriculum that you're like, oh crap, I don't want my kid to read that. Instead of doing that, read the book with your kid, right? And then you guys talk about it, or read it before your kid and then go, okay, here's some issues that are going to come up in this book. I just want you to be prepared. Oh my God, I wish so many people would do that.
Okay, but then you also you run into the point where there are a lot of kids whose parents are the ones that are trying to ban these books, if the kids get access to the books, they don't really have someone who can sit down and help them digest the material.
Maybe it's my pie in the sky kind of Pollyanna kind of heart is read the books yourselves and then decide if you think it's bad for your kid, or let your kid read it and use that as an opportunity to have a discussion with your kid, have an open dialogue with your child.
Let me tell you, having once been a kid, I read everything I wanted to read.
Yeah, same.
I mean, I found the books I wanted to read. I don't think my parents ever told me I couldn't read anything.
Well, and what was that Judy Blume book, Forever, right? Was that the name of it?
That was one of my books.
Yeah. Everybody, I remember that being passed around in school. Like, hey, look at
they
this.
Would ban that now, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah. Pretty much anything Judy Blume has written has been on somebody's banned book list.
Yeah, but I would say that her books, you want to talk about representation, they were probably written for us as their audience, young, I don't know, junior high, high school women.
Yeah, like junior high-ish.
Trying to figure out, I mean, they were kind of feminist ideals in some ways, like trying to figure out where we fit in the world. Those books were very helpful. Very helpful and probably better than some of the other books I read. I'm a reader. I will get my hands on the books that I want to read. And I just want to say to all you banners, banning them helps me find them faster.
Exactly. Although I can't imagine that there's any book banners that are listening to our podcast, but sure, if they happen to, you never
know. I mean, they might want to hear another perspective. I want to hear their perspective. True. I think the concerns that parents brought up, I think some of them are valid, but missing maybe some deeper context.
Yeah.
What kinds of things did you hear of reasons why people would want, like legitimate reasons, not this bullshit political Christian rights, right, but just sort of more kind of like parents having some real issues.
Some of the stuff that I found was that parents were afraid that the books were presenting information to their children before they were ready, right?
Okay, that could be legit.
And that's legit. I get that. I mean, just with any other topic, you want to present it to your child for where they are mentally, what they're prepared for, right? So that I get. So for people who are saying my 7-year-old shouldn't be reading Push, okay, I get that.
Okay, but this really is not in the library at the elementary school. This is in the library at the high school.
Right, exactly. And I understand that. I think there are still people who are pushing for
push
for books like Push to even be taken out of public libraries.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, I can't help it if your 7-year-old or your 10-year-old or whoever goes into a public library and finds that book.
Okay, but the parent in a public library has to help the child to a certain age check out books. They cannot check out.
Yeah, I don't have kids, so I don't know.
So that's the parent's responsibility. That cannot be on the librarian has, this is my opinion, people, so I'm just putting it out there, but a librarian has an obligation to curate a stack of books for the entire community. It's not just for the 7-year-old that lives in the community, it's for everyone, including like the very youngest all the way up to your 100-year-olds that are still thriving and reading, right? To be kind of a reflection of the community, but also to broaden the community perspective. Right. So the librarian is curating a particular selection of books. But if someone underage, and I don't know what that age is, I should have looked that up, but if someone underage comes in, their parents are also on that library card. They have to check it out with them. So that's the parent's responsibility. And a librarian cannot be deciding 100% in a public library, not necessarily a school library. These are two separate issues, but cannot necessarily be deciding what a child will read.
Right.
That's a good point. Has some responsibility there to be just like the internet and the telephone. And a parent has some responsibility here if they want to monitor what their kids are watching.
Right.
Now, I have been called, I don't know what the right word is, maybe lax, because I don't believe in monitoring my children very much. I ask them a lot of questions. I pay attention to what they're doing. I'm pretty observant, but I don't go in their bedrooms and go through their stuff. And I don't go on the computer and see what they've looked at. And I just don't do that stuff. I don't believe in it. I believe it's an invasion of privacy. I believe that kids are humans. Yeah. And if I had one that was having some trouble, I'd probably do some more monitoring. Yeah. But I don't believe in that as a parent.
No, I get that. And I mean, I grew up in a similar household in that there was a lot of trust in us as kids.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, I don't know, there was a lot of importance held to information and education. And there were books all over my house growing up. All over. Books were sacred growing up. So if there was a book I wanted to read, I'd pick it up, I'd start reading it. No big deal. If it was a book that I was like, I think this might be a little bit over my head or whatever, just put it down. No big deal. If there was something I didn't understand or something I wanted to talk about, I'd talk to somebody older than me in my house about the book. But there was never, you can't read this book because you're too young. That was never the case. In fact, I kind of skipped over a lot of kid books because there were a lot of other books around the house. Like I didn't read Nancy Drew. I didn't read The Babysitter's Club. Like I didn't read those books that were specifically targeted to kids when I was a kid because there were all these other books that were around that I read, and so the idea of somebody saying don't read a book because you're too young just boggles my mind in a lot of cases.
Because we should be fostering that love of learning. Kids should, at some point, not all books, but some books should be a little bit above their learning level to push them to that next level, to discuss, to stretch. And I'm not talking about like sexual content necessarily. Like this is what bothers me about that woman's interpretation of push is that she was talking about it being a sexual book. And really, yes, there were some very disturbing scenes, but the book was not about sex.
Right. Yeah, it's not a book like 100 different sexual positions.
Or The Joy of Sex, like I read when I was a teenager.
Right. Well, yeah, but or look at an anatomy book. Know what your body is.
Well, that's another thing, Raquel. Why don't we teach our kids anything about how their bodies work?
Girl, I don't know.
Like I think it's
fear. I think it's fear. It is.
That would be some important information.
It's the whole fear of if I talk to my kids about their body or about sex, then they're going to go have sex.
Yeah.
Guess what? They're
going to have
anyway.
Sex. Yeah.
Please let them be informed.
At some point, most of our children, probably not all, but the grand majority are going to have sex at some point. One would hope they have enough information to make really good decisions about that. And one would hope they have enough information to know that if they're being inappropriately manipulated or groomed, that they can make good decisions around that and let you know as a parent right away. But if they don't feel safe around you because you're not letting them express anything, how can they come to you with that?
Right. Or if you aren't letting them read a book, like if you aren't even letting them read. So there's a graphic novel called Mouse, M-A-U-S, and I can't remember the author's name. I should have written it down, but it's about his parents' experience during the Holocaust. That book gets banned all the time.
It's also award winning.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. I don't know about other kids, but I know when I was 10, 9, 10, 11, I was learning about the Holocaust.
Didn't we read the Diary of Anne Frank around that age, or a little bit older?
we read Diary of Anne Frank. That book's been banned a million times. Okay, that was hyperbole. It was not exactly a million times, but it's been banned quite often.
Yeah, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Which is ridiculous. She was 14 when she was writing it.
We don't want to acknowledge her experience. That's the reason.
Exactly. We don't want to acknowledge her experience. We want to erase her. We want to erase her experience.
I don't want to erase her.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I think if it was put to people that way, that by banning books and by banning these stories, it's a step toward erasing people and erasing their stories, then maybe people would have a different reaction to the banning books. Maybe people would stand up and oppose banning books more if they thought of it that way.
That is one of the issues, is there's not so much opposition. And I think the big rise, I really believe that this is politically manufactured, that it's opportunistic politics, that the issues just rile up the base, and that it's part of a bigger culture war. It's a winning issue that I think this woman in my hometown was just planted in a way to come up and make all this strife. She hasn't even filled out the paperwork to have the book banned, right? There's procedures that you can go through. She doesn't, I don't believe she even cares.
She probably hasn't even read the actual book.
No, that was clear.
Yeah.
No, it's a political game, and it's the, what did I call them? The Trumplicans? It's the Trumplicans. They're in it to win it. They're starting local. They're moving upwards. This is where we falter as Democrats. We are not there saying no.
Yeah, it is very opportunistic. I will agree with you there. But I do want to bring up a point that it's not just Trumplicans who are banning books.
Oh, she's gonna put me in my place now. Raquel's gonna smack me down. Good. I need it sometimes.
No.
Good.
For instance, say Mark Twain. A lot of Mark Twain's books were banned because of use of the N-word.
Yeah. And that was probably the leftists doing that banning?
Well, yeah. There were people on the left who were saying, hey, ban Mark Twain, ban To Kill a Mockingbird, ban all these things, because
should that be banned?
Oh, I don't think so. No, not at all.
Neither.
No, because, oh my God, they're using the N-word. Oh my God. Okay. Again, in context, I get it. I understand why that word was used. It's not saying, hey, everybody, run on out and use this word because it's great. That's not what's happening.
Right.
Even if it were saying that, far be it from me to ban the book. I just won't read it. Do you know what I mean? If that were the case, then yeah, fine. I just won't read that book.
The word was used because it was historically accurate in the context that the book was written.
Exactly. That is my point.
That's what was happening at that time.
Right. But people on the left wanted to ban the book because it was using the N-word, and the N-word is bad. Not taking into consideration, look at this as a whole. I mean, yes, express your opinion. Express that it's awful that this word is being used in this book. Yeah, that's cool. Shout that from the rooftops. That's awesome. But don't say that the book should be banned. Just say, hey, I just want y'all to know what's going on in this book. I read it so you didn't have to. Please don't read the book. Choose not to. But if you choose to, that's cool. It's available to you.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that is a much healthier way to go about things. To say, oh, it's using these awful words, or oh, it's espousing these horrible ideas that I don't agree with, and blah blah. I don't want my children to know, and Lord, then just read it. Don't take the opportunity away from somebody else.
I know people are gonna think I'm the terrible parent for this, and quite frankly, I don't give a shit because I know I'm a good parent. But the thing about telling your kids what they can and cannot read, and again, age appropriate, I'm not telling a 6-year-old to read Push.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not even telling my 16-year-old to read Push. I'm telling my 16-year-old, if she wants to read it, she can. But the thing about telling your kid what they can or cannot read sort of assumes that they're you or a piece of you, or you own them, that they're not their own human being that can read and think and decide and grow on their own without you. And I know that that's a scary thing, but that's what we're creating here, is full human beings with a mind.
No, you're supposed to be creating a mini you. What are you thinking?
No, don't you want your kids to have a mind that they can come to you for a discussion and you can just be like, whoa, I never thought of it that way. And your kid can set you straight.
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, I just don't get that. All right, I want to share something with you.
Sure.
There is a Banned Books Week. So the theme for Banned Books Week 2022 is Books Unite Us, Censorship Divides Us. Sharing stories important to us means sharing a part of ourselves. Books reach across boundaries and build connections between readers. Censorship, on the other hand, creates barriers. Banned Books Week is both a reminder of the unifying power of stories and the divisiveness of censorship, and a call to action for readers across the country to push back against censorship attempts in their communities. And this is from the ALA org, the American Library Association. And the week this year is September 18th through 24th. They have a ton of stuff on their website about Banned Books Week. So hopefully we'll all celebrate it.
Yes. Even if somebody listens to this episode and it's after that week, then hey, do yourself a favor. Go to that website, ala.org, and see what books they list for Banned Books Week. Because guess what? There's a reason those books are banned. They're probably going to be pretty good. They're probably pretty well written.
The number one most challenged book of 2021 is called Gender Queer.
Yes.
It was banned for LGBTQIA plus content considered sexually explicit. I have not read it, but guess what just moved up on my list of reading material?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in fact, according to the ALA, the 10 most challenged books of 2021 are number 1, like you said, Gender Queer by Maia Kobabe. Hopefully I'm saying these names right. Number 2, Lawn Boy by Jonathan Evison. Number 3, All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. Number 4, Out of Darkness by Ashley Hope Perez. Number 5, The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, which was also made into a movie, by the way, which people can watch if they don't.
I saw the movie.
Yeah, but usually the books are
better.
Yeah. Let's see. Number 6, The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. Number 7, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jesse Andrews. Number 8, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. Number 9, This Book is Gay by Juno Dawson. And number 10, Beyond Magenta by Susan Coughlin. So yeah, people, read those books. I'll put all of those in the show notes so people can look them up.
I haven't read a single one on that list. Have you?
I haven't either. I think I started The Bluest Eye 1.5 million years ago, and I didn't get very far. I go through phases where I'll start a book and then I get distracted and I stop. Yeah. And I think that's what happened with Toni Morrison's book. So I didn't finish, but I fully intend to go back and read it. That's actually a pretty good goal, is to read the top 10 banned books of whatever year. I think I might have to put that as a goal for myself for the rest of the year.
That's a lot of books.
I know it's a lot of books. Maybe to read, let's see, it's September, maybe read 3 of those books by the end of the year. We'll see.
I think just the thing is that freedom of speech, freedom to read what we want to read, looking at your children as autonomous beings, wanting, I don't know, I just can't imagine wanting your children not to think. And nobody wants, this is what they said, I don't want my students to feel discomfort, anger, or guilt. Well, guess what, people? Your kids are going to feel all of those things.
Yes.
Maybe from reading, maybe not from reading, but they're going to feel that throughout their
maybe
lives.
From their parents. Sorry, parents. Just injecting a little bit of reality here. No
I don't
shade.
want my kid to feel discomfort. Like,
your kids are going to
what do you
feel discomfort.
Do you want your children not be able to function in the world? Like, what are you trying to set them up for?
They don't. Yeah,
discomfort.
Yeah,
okay, as an adult going through therapy, learning to feel my discomfort has been huge, and it's been imperative for my healing and development as a human being. We must feel discomfort.
Yeah, it's part of your growth.
Right.
Part of your growth. I
don't want my kid to feel anger. What are they supposed to be happy all the time?
God, no. That's impossible. If you have a kid that's happy all the time, your kid's on drugs, or your kid is not an actual human being. Your kid is a robot. Just putting that out there. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, and maybe part of this just goes back to overparenting, like overextending ourselves over our children.
Let me say something to that, just to counterpoint to that. It may not be, okay, maybe in some cases, yes, it's an extension of overparenting, but I think it could also be an extension of not parenting. Because if your kid reads one of these books, they're going to have questions and they're going to come to you. And you're going to be like, I don't want to have that conversation. Guess what? That's an opportunity to not parent your child if you don't have that conversation. Guess what? That's part of parenting. Talk to your child. So I posted on Facebook real quick before we came on. I posted, what's your favorite banned book? Asking for the podcast. In this very quick amount of time, I did get some responses, which is awesome. Here's what I got. Okay, I'm not going to say people's names because they may not want me to. But anyway, one person said To Kill a Mockingbird or The Color Purple. Another person said The Hate You Give. Shout out. That's awesome. Another person said Harry Potter, pretty much the whole series. Another person commented that the question made him think of the book banning scene from the movie Field of Dreams. So
I don't remember that scene.
And I don't remember that particular scene, but I will go back and watch the YouTube clip that he included. I do have to say, well, first off, thanks to those people who answered, because y'all know who you are. I would say probably one of, and I can't say favorite because it's always hard for me to pick a favorite in anything, but I think one of my favorites would be The Color Purple. I read the book. I read it a million years ago. I've seen the movie 100,000 times. Like anytime I see it on TV, I stop and watch it. No matter where it is in the movie, I stop and watch. And it's such a powerful story that I just think people need to know it. People need to read it. And there's something in there that speaks to so many people that I think it's a very important book. But what about you? What's one of your favorite banned books? Just one of it. Doesn't have to be like the all-time favorite.
I mean, it's not a question. It's just, I think the only one I've ever read is Push, as far as I know. Like, what else have I read?
See, I would think, okay, so did you read Grapes of Wrath?
No.
Did you read 1984?
Oh, yeah. I love that book.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
That's one. Did you read anything by Mark Twain?
Sure, but I don't remember.
There you go. Okay. Did you read anything by Hemingway? For instance, The Sun Also Rises. Did you read that? You probably did in school because I remember.
If we had to for school, I might have kind of read it.
Yep, we had to for school. So yeah, you read it. But these are all these books that have been banned that at least our generation, we all read them in high school.
Oh, The Great Gatsby. I know they're trying to ban that one. I cannot figure out, like, why would they want to ban The Great Gatsby?
I have no idea.
I mean, I just found that book to be, I know it's a classic, and I enjoy, it was somewhat romantic, so I enjoyed it kind of, but what's wrong with that book? Like, I don't get it. I only remember one scene from that whole book.
Yeah.
And that is, and I don't remember the characters' names, but when the dude said he was going to kiss the girl, because he wanted to kiss her, but she had the snuffles. She was stuffed up, and he was going to kiss her anyway, knowing he could get a cold. Right? No one would do that in COVID time. Like, that's over. Maybe that's why they banned it, because he didn't have a mask. I don't know. I think it's interesting because I think the parallel, honestly, to the mask wearing is very similar. I think some of the same parents who want to ban books, or same people, are the ones that didn't want to wear masks because you were taking away their rights. And now they want to ban books because, like, consistency.
It's a control issue. It's all a control. It's control and fear.
Yeah. Fear. Fear drives a lot.
It does.
If we let fear control our lives, it drives a lot.
It does. Okay, so I don't want to leave people thinking, oh God, there's nothing to do about this banned book thing. We just have to lie down and take it. Oh God. I just want to point out there's 3 things that came up that I thought were really awesome that some organizations are doing to kind of combat book banning. So I just want to call these out real quick.
Cool.
Like you said earlier, the American Library Association every year has the Banned Books Week. So that's awesome. That's number 1. That's so cool. I'm excited. And then Brooklyn Public Library, earlier this year, they gave teens anywhere in the US, they gave them access to its collection of hundreds of thousands of ebooks with a special Books Unbanned e-card. And as of late June, more than 4,000 cards were given out to youth ages 13 through 21.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. And then, this is really cool, my hometown, Nashville Public Library, protested banned books this year with a limited edition library card with the special message, I read banned books. And it's a bright yellow card that's part of the library's Freedom to Read campaign celebrating the right to read. Yay!
And I would also encourage people, if they want to get involved in this, if there's a huge push in your community, to show up to a school board meeting. Because what I've noticed is that the school board gets hammered and they don't get a whole lot of support. Or it could be the opposite. It could be the school board that's trying to ban the books, and they need to hear from parents who don't want that, not just parents who do. Again, I just don't think we use our voice in the strongest way that we can sometimes. Show up. It sucks. They're usually, at least in my town, at 7 o'clock at night. Nobody wants to do that on a school night, right?
I think at the very least, know what your school board is doing. Know what your libraries are doing.
On the ALA's website, you can contact Congress just from a click. You just click the link. Bink, you click, and you join ALL's advocacy list, and you become a library advocate that fast.
Nice. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that.
I mean,
that's awesome.
There are things we can do, and we can read the books, and we can talk about the books.
Exactly.
And we can, share our displeasure with these decisions as they're being made. But I think probably the biggest point, Raquel, is the one you made at the very beginning about this being the first step to
fascism.
That's the scary part about it. That's the scary part. We got to pay attention to what's going on.
We do. It happens bit by bit. And if people don't remain vigilant, rights get taken away and forces take power, and you wake up and you're like, what the fuck just happened? And you're like, oh, this started however many actions and years and moments ago, And I just thought, oh no, it can't happen here. Well, yeah, it can. It can.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
This will be my final question for you.
Okay.
In this whole topic, do you ever think that like a book could just be so bad that it should be banned?
That's a really hard question.
It is a hard question, isn't it? I've been asking myself this question.
Being true to myself and true to my heart, I can't imagine something being banned and being okay with it. I can see being really appalled and angry and horrified by, say, a publishing house that will publish something that's wretched and horrible and in all of the wretched and horrible ways that people can hurt each other. But that's my right to be horrified and angry. That's my right. It's not my right to take away the right that piece or that book or whatever was written. I could, by the same token, I can go all over the place and express my discontent with whatever that book is. So yeah, they have every right to write whatever bullshit they want to write, and publishing houses can say, okay, we'll publish this bullshit. Fine, that's on you. But I can also say, that's bullshit. That's a horrible decision that publishing house made, and I'm putting my voice out there as opposition to whatever that piece is that was published.
But no ban.
No. Mm-mm.
You got to hold your line of principle.
Yeah.
Yeah, because easily then who becomes the judge?
Exactly. And publishing houses can say, look, we are not going to publish X, Y, and Z. And I will support them all day long. Be like, oh, good, you're not going to publish stuff by racist assholes? Yeah, I support you. And I would be really happy in that support. And I would be really vocal in supporting them and saying, they are not going to, publish racist bullshit. Okay, that's cool. But guess what? There is a system in our world now where racist assholes or divisive assholes or whoever, they can self-publish.
Oh, they can be presidents.
So yeah.
In case you haven't noticed.
True. Exactly. And whether it's self-published or published by a publishing house, I can choose not to read it. I can choose to read it and then express my discontent all day long. And because of freedom of speech, and because we don't live in a fascist society, I know I'm not going to get arrested for saying this book is shit and I didn't like it.
Okay, I'm going to break my word. I'm going to ask one more question.
Okay.
Because it made me think, okay, this is a hypothetical world. This very controversial racist writer is putting out a book. Yeah. Do you A, choose not to read it just on principle, or B, choose to read it and then discuss the content, or I don't know, like learn from the content to have a discussion around either A, why it's wrong, or B, what you learned from someone else's viewpoint? Tough one, isn't it?
That is a tough one. And depending on the day, you would get two different answers from me.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, because if you read it, you're offering some support in some way.
Yeah, exactly. If I read it, I would not spend my money on it. I would maybe get it from a public library. I would have to be in a really good headspace to read it. So yeah, it would be really hard though. It would be really difficult. And I can't say that I definitely would read it. I mean, there's lots of racist bullshit out there that I haven't read. Final thoughts. In the interest of growth and in the interest of fostering conversation, fostering your own growth, read the books that have been banned, even if it's just one. Just pick one that you just wouldn't think that you would read. Give it a go. and then find somebody to talk to about it, whether it's your own kid or another adult, or if there's nobody in your circle that you feel comfortable talking to about it, post something on Facebook or post something on Instagram or, whatever. Just say, hey, I've read this book. What did y'all think of it? I want to talk to somebody about this. Here's my take. What did you think? We can do hard things, people. It won't kill us. As Glennon and Abby and Amanda,
we got your name. Still have us on the podcast anyway.
As they say, and as is very true, we can do hard things.
You might actually enjoy it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess my final thoughts are that if we think banning books is necessary so that our kids don't have to feel and think, we're not really afraid of the books. We're afraid of the feelings and the thinking, and therefore maybe we should examine ourselves a little.
Well, and maybe you aren't giving your kids enough credit.
Damn, the kids are smart. They're not giving their kids enough credit, in my humble opinion.
All right, read the books, people.
Thanks everyone for listening today. We will be back with more Madness Cafe next week. You can find us on Instagram at Madness Cafe Podcast or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com. Bye.